The sun showed no mercy that morning when Silas Whitmore stepped out onto his porch, coffee in hand, expecting nothing more than a quiet day tending to his crops. Instead, he froze. Out in his cornfield, for pregnant women were clawing at the hardened earth with their bare hands, their dresses torn, faces streaked with mud and exhaustion. They looked like ghosts conjured from some fever dream, lost and desperate. His coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered against the porch steps. Without thinking, Silas sprinted toward them, his boots pounding against the dry dirt. The women paused, looking up as he approached, and what he saw in their eyes stopped him cold. Terror, confusion, a hollow kind of bewilderment that spoke of something deeply wrong. The first woman, her auburn hair matted and face smeared with dust, scooted backward as he neared. Her belly was so swollen she could barely move. "Please," she gasped. "We don't know how we got here, ma'am." Silas blinked. "What are you doing on my land?" His voice was gentle despite the shock rising in his chest. He kept his distance, palms raised, trying not to startle them. The second woman, younger, blonde, burst into tears. "We woke up here," she sobbed. "In the dirt. We don't know where we came from. We don't remember anything." His throat tightened. These women were deep into their pregnancies, 7, maybe 8 months along. Their clothes, though soiled and torn, had once been expensive. But their gaunt faces told a different story. They hadn't eaten in days. The third woman, older, with dark hair streaked with gray, slowly rose to her feet. "We're not trying to cause trouble," she said, steadying herself. We woke up here, and we felt like we had to dig. Like something was calling us to dig in this exact spot." Silas frowned. "What's the last thing you remember?" They exchanged glances, each of their expressions clouding over in eerie unison. Finally, the auburn-haired woman spoke. "A man. Preacher, I think. He had kind eyes. He said he was helping us. But then—" She pressed her hands to her temples. "It's all fog." The fourth woman, silent until now, whispered, "The tea. I remember the tea. It tasted strange." A chill crept up Silas's spine. For pregnant women, no memory of arriving, all digging like something inside them demanded it. And now, mentions of a preacher and strange tea? He didn't know what this was, but he was sure it wasn't random. He helped them to the porch, questions churning in his mind. They introduced themselves one by one. Clara, Mercy, Ruth, and Abigail. None of them knew their last names. "When did you last eat?" he asked, eyes scanning their sunken cheeks. I don't know," Clara admitted softly, resting her hand on her belly. "Days, maybe. Time feels strange." Silas brought out what food he had: bread, dried meat, preserves his late wife had canned years ago. They ate with a ravenous urgency that only deepened his unease. These weren't women who had gotten lost in the woods. Something had been done to them. He noticed the state of their hands, raw, bloody, caked with soil. But what Clara said next made his stomach lurch. "The babies are coming soon," she said, almost reverently. "All of ours. The preacher said they would arrive together when the time was right." "What preacher?" Silas pressed. "What was his name?" Ruth looked up, distant. "He called himself Father Gabriel. He said he was chosen to care for us, that we were blessed to carry out his mission." That word, mission, tightened something in Silas's chest. He'd heard the rumors. Cults, traveling preachers, twisted doctrines. Vulnerable women being used and discarded. But this was more than whispers. It was in front of him, on his porch. "Where were you before you met him?" he asked. Mercy wiped her eyes. "I was working in a shop in Silver Creek. My husband had died. I had nowhere to go. Father Gabriel found me. I was a schoolteacher," Ruth added. "Lost my job when the school shut down. He offered shelter. Said his mission welcomed the forgotten." Each story mirrored the next. Women left behind, lost, desperate. And Father Gabriel had swooped in with promises of purpose, belonging, family. Then Abigail, quiet until now, looked up. "He said we were chosen, that our children would be raised away from the corruption of the world." Silas leaned forward. Where is this mission? The women exchanged uncertain glances. North, Clara murmured. I think it was north. There were mountains. A big wooden building. Crosses everywhere. Ruth's voice trembled. The strangest part is, we all had the same dream last night. We saw this place. We saw your field. And we knew we had to come dig. Silas turned to the rows of torn-up earth. What had they been looking for? What had drawn them here? He didn't want to believe it, but he couldn't deny it either. Whatever was buried in his field, Father Gabriel never meant for it to be found. Against every instinct, Silas decided to help. If they were going to uncover something, he needed to see it first. He fetched his shovel and returned to find the women resting on the porch, their bellies making any movement painful. You shouldn't be digging in your condition, he said. Just point me to where it feels strongest. Clara pointed near the edge of the field. There, between those two rows. It's pulling at us. Silas dug. The soil was packed tight, unnaturally so. After 20 minutes of sweating under the sun, his shovel struck something solid. Not stone, wood. What is it? Mercy asked, trying to stand. Silas kept working, clearing the dirt until the corner of a wooden crate emerged. Recently buried, not rotted. His pulse quickened. Someone had put this here deliberately. Then Ruth gasped. I remember something. He gave us lessons. Told us to forget our old lives. Said the tea would help. Help us let go of who we were. What kind of tea? Silas asked, still digging. It was bitter. Made us sleepy, Clara said. Sometimes we'd wake up hours later and not remember anything. He said it was for the babies, Abigail whispered. Silas's grip tightened on the shovel. A preacher drugging pregnant women, stripping away their memories. How often? He asked. Every day, Clara answered. Twice if we asked questions. The crate was fully exposed now. About the size of a coffin, smaller, though. Silas pried the lid open. Inside, documents. Dozens. Birth certificates. Marriage licenses. Property deeds. And photographs, portraits of women who looked eerily like the ones now sitting on his porch. Ruth crawled closer, her face pale. Those women, they look like us. Silas pulled out a birth certificate. A child born to Clara Whitfield. Dated 3 years ago. Another document said she died in childbirth. His blood ran cold. This can't be right, Clara whispered, snatching the paper from Silas's hands. My name is Clara, but I'm not dead. I'm standing right here. But Silas wasn't listening. He kept rifling through the documents from the buried crate, his horror growing with each page. A chilling pattern had begun to take shape, one he could no longer deny. Each record told the same story. A pregnant woman, alone and desperate, arriving at Father Gabriel's mission. Months later, dead from childbirth. The faces in the photographs looked eerily similar to the 4 women on his porch. Same names, same fates, and far too many to be coincidence. There were at least 20 such files in the box. 20 women, 20 deaths. And even more unsettling, he found multiple birth certificates with the same names. Clara, Mercy, Ruth, issued in different years. Clara, he said slowly, holding up the papers. There were 2 other Claras before you. Clara shook her head, her body trembling. That's not possible. I remember my life. I remember meeting Father Gabriel. I chose to go with him. Silas looked her in the eye. Do you remember anything before you met him? Your family? Your childhood? The man who got you pregnant? Silence. It stretched, thick and heavy, until finally Ruth whispered, No, I can't remember anything before the mission. Father Gabriel told us that was normal. That pregnancy affects memory. Abigail pulled a property deed from the crate, studying the signature at the bottom. This is mine, she whispered, white-faced. It's my name, Abigail Norton, dated 2 months ago, but I don't remember owning land, let alone signing it away. Silas examined the deed. It described a valuable ranch north of here with water rights. Prime land. He exhaled sharply. If Gabriel's been targeting women with property, convincing them to sign everything over while drugged. He met their eyes, his voice dark. He's not running a mission. He's running a con. He found women with something he wanted: land, money, resources. He got them pregnant, drugged them until their memories blurred, until they became malleable, obedient. And when they died giving birth, he sold their babies and moved on to the next woman who looked close enough to pass for the last. Mercy doubled over suddenly, clutching her belly as a contraction hit. "The babies," she gasped. "What happens to the babies?" Silas didn't want to answer, but the last document in the box gave him no choice. It was a handwritten letter from Gabriel Morrison. "The Hartwell couple has agreed to pay $500 for a healthy infant. They ask no questions about the mother's fate. The Riverside family will take the next for $300. These arrangements ensure the mission's financial stability while providing Christian homes for the children." Silas's hands trembled as he read the words aloud. Clara groaned, another contraction seizing her. "My baby," she cried. "He was going to sell my baby?" "All your babies," Silas confirmed, jaw clenched. "And when you died, he'd replace you. Again." Ruth broke down in sobs. "But why did we come here? Why dig this box up? How did we even know it was buried?" Silas looked at the battered crate, then back to the field. "Someone else buried this," he said quietly. "Someone who escaped. Someone who knew the truth. And someone who believed that someday, one of you might break free from Gabriel's control." Mercy was writhing now. "We need to go. If he finds us." The words froze on her lips. They heard it, hoofbeats, fast and close. "Riders." Silas bolted inside and grabbed his rifle. "Get in the house. Now. All of you." Because if Gabriel Morrison was coming to collect his property, he wouldn't leave without a fight. 3 riders appeared over the ridge and thundered into the yard. At their head rode a tall man in a long black coat, who dismounted with practiced grace. His face wore the mask of spiritual authority. Kind eyes, gentle smile, soft voice laced with power. The kind of man who could convince the lost that he was salvation. "Brother Silas," he called, stepping forward. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Silas stepped out onto the porch, rifle cradled in his arms. "These women don't belong to anyone." Gabriel's smile didn't falter. "Of course not. But they are under my spiritual care. They've been missing from the mission for 2 days. Their families are worried sick." "Funny thing," Silas replied. "None of them remembers having a family." The 2 men flanking Gabriel, both armed, hardened, clearly not missionaries, shifted restlessly. Silas noted the gun belts, the cold stares. "Hired enforcers. Brother Marcus and Brother John," Gabriel said smoothly. "They help maintain order. Sometimes the women get confused. Pregnancy affects their thinking." From inside, a cry rang out. Clara, caught in the grip of another contraction. Gabriel's eyes sharpened. "She needs medical care. Our mission has a midwife. Supplies. Experience. Out here with you." He spread his hands. "Complications happen on isolated farms." The threat was clear. Silas raised his rifle. "Funny thing happened today. Found a box in my field, full of papers with your name on them. Birth certificates, deeds, death records." For the first time, Gabriel's smile faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said carefully. 23 women, Gabriel. All died in childbirth. All signed their assets over to you just before they passed. How many more do you need before you're full up?" Brother Marcus twitched toward his weapon, but Silas was quicker. The rifle didn't move, but his voice was deadly calm. "I wouldn't. Sheriff Davidson's already on his way. He's seen the documents." It was a bluff, but Gabriel didn't know that. The preacher's confidence finally cracked. His skin turned ashen beneath his sun-weathered face. "You don't understand the service we provide," he snapped. "These women were lost. We gave them purpose, community, faith. You drugged them," Silas said, stepping closer. "You erased their lives so you could take what wasn't yours." Another cry echoed from inside. "Mercy this time." Gabriel's eyes lit with urgency. They're in labor. You can't handle 2 births alone. Let us help. We'll talk about the documents later. But Silas had seen enough. Gabriel's help would mean the women and their children would vanish forever. The standoff stretched, tension crackling like static in the air. Then hoofbeats again. The 4th rider. Silas didn't move his rifle. He didn't have to. The newcomer dismounted with calm, deliberate steps. A woman's voice cut through the air. "Father Gabriel," she called. "Still out here collecting your lost sheep?" Gabriel turned, and for the first time his composure shattered completely. The woman was about 30, dressed in men's trousers and boots, a doctor's bag slung at her hip. Her build, her features, even the tilt of her head. She could have been a twin to the women inside Silas's house. His voice came out choked. "Elizabeth, you're supposed to be dead." She raised an eyebrow. "Sorry to disappoint, though I'm sure the death certificate you forged was very convincing." "You always were meticulous with your paperwork," Elizabeth said coolly, stepping fully between Gabriel and the house. Silas kept his rifle leveled at the preacher's men, ready for the slightest twitch. "I buried those documents 6 months ago," Elizabeth continued, voice unwavering. "Right after I escaped your so-called mission with my daughter. I knew someday the drugs would wear off and these women would come looking for answers." Gabriel's face turned crimson, his preacher's mask cracking. "You stole from me. A child was promised to the Riverside family." "My daughter was never yours to sell," Elizabeth snapped. "Just like the babies being born in that house right now aren't yours to claim." A sudden cry pierced the air. Tiny, new, unmistakable. Clara had delivered. The sound pulled every eye toward the farmhouse. Silas saw it clearly, something flickering behind Gabriel's false calm. Hunger, greed, ownership. "Brother Marcus," Gabriel muttered. "The back door." But Elizabeth was faster. She drew a revolver from inside her coat and fired a single shot into the sky. "Next one goes through your heart, Gabriel. I've had 6 months to practice. I don't miss anymore." Marcus's horse reared, throwing him to the ground. The second man, John, reached for his sidearm, but froze as Silas stepped into his line of sight, rifle aimed squarely at his chest. "Here's what's going to happen," Elizabeth said, her voice steel. "You're going to ride out of here. All 3 of you. These women are free to make their own choices about their lives and their children." Gabriel laughed bitterly. "Free? They have nothing. No money, no homes, no families. Where exactly do they think they're going with newborns in their arms?" "That's no longer your concern," Silas replied. His voice held no hesitation now. "They stay here, as long as they want. My farm has room, and their babies will grow up free." Another cry rang out. Mercy had delivered, too. 2 infants born that morning, safe, whole, and beyond Gabriel's reach. "You don't know what you're starting," Gabriel hissed. "I have connections. Lawmen who believe in my mission. You'll regret this." Elizabeth gave him a cold smile. "Actually, you're the one who should worry. I made copies of everything in that box. Sheriff Davidson in 3 counties has them. There are warrants out for your arrest in Silver Creek, Riverside, and Hartwell." Gabriel's confidence drained from his face. The families he'd sold children to, the officials he'd bribed, the women he'd stripped of everything, they were all detailed, documented, exposed. "Mount up," he growled through clenched teeth. "We're leaving." The 3 men turned and rode away, their silhouettes shrinking against the morning light. Elizabeth lowered her weapon and strode toward the house. "Let's see about those babies," she said. "And don't worry. Their memories will come back now that they're away from his drugs." Silas watched Gabriel vanish over the horizon, but his instincts told him this wasn't the end. Men like Gabriel didn't vanish quietly, not when money was still out there to be claimed. 3 weeks later, the Whitmore farmhouse didn't look anything like it once had. The lonely silence that had haunted Silas for 5 years was gone, replaced by the cries of newborns, the soft murmur of women's voices, and the laughter of hope being reborn. Clara and Mercy had healed. Their babies were healthy, strong, and growing under Elizabeth's careful watch. And just as Elizabeth had promised, the memories had started to return. Clara remembered her late husband, the small ranch he left behind, the same one she'd unknowingly signed over to Gabriel's mission. Mercy remembered her job at the general store and the modest savings account that Gabriel had drained. Ruth recalled her old schoolhouse, the students she'd loved, the property she'd once owned. And Abigail remembered the sprawling ranch her father left her. Land Gabriel had tried to steal through forged deeds. That morning, Elizabeth stepped into the kitchen, where the women were preparing breakfast together. "Sheriff Davidson sent word," she said. "Gabriel was arrested in Denver trying to board a train east. We've been talking, all of us, about what comes next." Silas froze. He hadn't let himself think about what would happen when they left. After his wife's death, the silence in his house had been unbearable. Now, with 4 women and 2 children filling it with warmth, the thought of returning to loneliness stung deeper than he'd admit. "We want to stay," Clara said simply. "If you'll have us, we can work the land together, raise the children like family." Mercy smiled, her eyes bright. "Only if you want us here. We're not helpless anymore. We remember who we are, and we choose to stay." Silas felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been sealed shut for too long. "I'd be honored," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Truly." Abigail, who had been quiet, added, "I remember everything now. Once we get my father's ranch back from Gabriel's estate, it could support all of us. A real home, not just a refuge." Elizabeth packed her medical bag and slung it over her shoulder. "My work here's done, but I'll be back. And if any more women show up, confused, afraid, I'll know exactly where to bring them." Silas stood at the doorway watching her ride away. The women on his porch weren't victims anymore. They were survivors, strong, unshaken, and determined to reclaim what had been stolen. 2 babies cooed inside the house, unaware of the darkness they'd escaped. And his quiet, forgotten farm had become something new, something sacred. Sometimes, the most life-changing miracles don't come from the sky or sermons, but from the courage to dig up what others tried to bury.